The following is paid programming. Welcome to Something More with Chris Boyd, certified financial planner practitioner and founder of Asset Management Resources, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. We call it Something More because we like to talk not only about those important dollar and cents issues, but also the quality of life issues that make the money matters matter. Here he is, your fulfillment facilitator, your partner in prosperity, advising clients across the country, your host, J. Christopher Boyd.
Well, welcome to the program, everyone. Thanks for being with us. I've got Jeff Perry with me as my co-host again from Asset Management Resources. And you know what? It's almost Christmas. And so we wanted to talk about the Christmas topic and the Christmas season and what it's all about. Joining us to do that is my friend and a client of ours, Father Vin Daily. Vin, thanks for being with us.
Great to be with you.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Christmas spirit. Before we do the Christmas season, I wanted to just give everyone a chance to get to know you and your role. You're the spiritual director at the Pope John the 23rd Seminary in Weston for delayed vocations. I have to tell you, when I was growing up as a kid, I grew up in Framingham, and our parish was in Sudbury. We often went to, there's a lot of parishes in that space. So we went, sometimes Sudbury, sometimes some of the Framingham ones. But at a certain period, I remember when I was, maybe 10 to 15 years of age, that kind of range, more often than not, we went to church at the Pope John the 23rd Seminary because the music was great. The homilies were enriching, and so I am familiar with your location, but it's been a long time since I've been there.
Well, I hope the homilies are still okay, because I'm the one who's giving them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm sure they are. So tell us a little bit about a little bit about you before we get going for our audience to get to know you.
Great. Well, I've been a priest for the Archdiocese of Boston for just about 34 years. And I've been very fortunate, a lot of different types of assignments. I was a parish priest for a total of 15 years in Dorchester. I was a high school chaplain, and I've been seminary formation work for almost a total of 10 years. I was at St. John's in Brighton as well. And I was very blessed. In 1999, I was sent to Rome for higher studies. That's why I'm still in seminary work. I'm paying off my my tuition, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. What was that like going over to Rome? You must have enjoyed that.
Well, it was really great. I studied at the Angelicum, which is actually a Dominican university, like Providence College, Dominican Order of Preachers. And I studied spiritual theology. And it was a great experience. It's like being on a retreat for 4 years, to be honest with you. And I had some great professors. It was just great being in Rome in the middle of everything. So,
how do you find?
I was very fortunate.
I know you very much enjoyed your parish in Dorchester, as I recall. How do you find the transition for your work now from parish life? I'm sure it's the tempo and pace of it is very different.
It's a good question. It's a trade-off. I think in my heart of hearts, I'm a parish priest. That's where I think that's why God put me on earth. But I have to say that it's really it's great just being there to advise the seminarians, to walk with them on their journey. I teach a few classes as well, but I'm pretty much like the counselor. I'm the confessor on the campus, spiritual direction, as you mentioned. But it's a trade-off. It's great to be there, and it's it's a great place to be assigned. It's a beautiful campus and chapel, as you know. And I have plenty of parish work anyway on the weekends. People keep me busy, so it's fine.
Very good. Well, let's turn our attention to the season. And I mean, the obvious is, we tend to focus on the commercial aspects of Christmas, and we all, I don't know, I think there is a natural aspect where we tend to get nostalgic, and all the Christmas tunes and the Christmas movies, and there's aspects of it that generate a certain warmth of for the season that we all enjoy. But there is the reality of this is an occasion for a religious kind of focus, a focus of faith. Let's talk about that. Where should we begin?
The reason for the season, Chris.
There you go. The reason for the season. Well said.
Well, I think I like to reflect on the silence of Bethlehem. Let's put it that way, and that very often our lives are so full. There's anxiety in the air. There's a lot of pressure in life, and people live with a certain degree of being unsettled. So I like to reflect on the peace and quiet of Bethlehem, the Holy Family, and just God is with us, Emmanuel, correct? And I think part of the Christmas season also is be people who share peace with others and simple happiness. Obviously, I'm a priest. That's my number one job. But I try to really share the peace of Bethlehem and reliving those mysteries of God coming amongst us as a human being. That's what I find. I love all the Christmas music. I love the festivities and the parties. But I think more than anything, the peace of the season is sorely needed and it's very welcome.
So we live in a time when there's enormous social disharmony. How do we embrace that? How do you suggest people embrace that peace and quiet?
I think as the Lord came into this world for all of us, we're all brothers and sisters. We're all loved by good Lord. There's a lot that seems to divide us these days, but I think we should have hearts that strive to be unified and live the life of charity. So how to go about that? I think for all of us, we should have some sort of spiritual life, some sort of prayer where we're connected to God and strive to carry out his will. But also, I love the idea of Dorothy Day, who I wrote my thesis on her conversion. And one of her central aspects of her spiritual life is direct works of mercy. So perhaps during the Advent season, it's almost finished, in Christmas season, we can kind of pick out ways where we can just do good every day to lift people up, maybe forgive an old enemy, to put some grudges aside, but smile at people, be kind, be patient. So that's one way to live out the Christmas gift, and that way we bring peace to the world, and the Lord's presence in our hearts gets shared with others.
Doing good works. I mean, we do often think about this time of year as a time when people often think about charitable intentions as part of their planned giving on a financial means, doing good in terms of, it's a hectic season. I don't know, it may not always be the time when everyone's thinking about volunteering as much, but it could be simple acts of kindness as well, but I do think it's a good point. When you're thinking about others and trying to do for others, it's less about self, and that sometimes that is uplifting in a sense. It's part of what can make us. We tend to get focused on all our problems and all our pressures, and that can be a way to kind of overcome some of that by focusing on the needs of others and the challenges of others, and really to recognize much of our good fortune and blessings that we do have.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And you don't have to go far to do it. It's usually just the people next to it. It's good to go and volunteer places to be involved in cause, whatnot. But sometimes it's just the people next to us, so you can do the most good. Like every little bit, every conversation can be a blessed moment. Let's put it that way.
There's a lot of people who. Let's talk about the difference between spiritual life and religious engagement. Because I know obviously as a priest, you're likely to want to encourage people to participate in, sacramental engagement. But I think a lot of times people find it challenging if they've fallen away from church going and some of that kind of thing. But you started off by talking about, the importance of having a spiritual life and prayer life. Maybe that'd be a good place to talk a little bit about if I'm someone who doesn't have a regular outlet, a communal engagement. What are ways that one can kind of cultivate that spiritual and prayer life aspect of that what you're suggesting for this season?
Right, Chris. And yeah, people are all different places on their journey with God and religion. But I think if we just kind of look at the externals versus the interior life, and I think to foster Christmas peace in our hearts, it comes from the soul first, from the heart. So, and as the Lord says himself, you just go to our room and pray. In fact, this afternoon, I'll probably just take a good long walk at Old Orchard Beach that's behind me. And,
Nice.
I meet God in nature. I look out into the sea. I see the beauty of the sea. I see the beautiful, the seascape. So I see God in all those types of things as you do
moment.
at the Cape. Yeah. And I think the Lord's never far. He's in our hearts and he wants to listen. And the main thing is the interior life. Of course, as a Catholic priest, I derive great support from my community, the people I serve on the weekends and the seminarians. So it's kind of a both and, but it's an easy beginning. Just turn to God in our hearts, and know how much he loves us. Ask for healing, ask for peace, and just get a simple conversation going with them. And you can do that just right in your own room. So I think that's
so sometimes that can be done on an individual level. Sometimes there's virtue in gaining communal interaction in that endeavor for spiritual enrichment.
Yeah, I think also we do our best to make sure people know that the door is open. I like to put my best foot forward in inviting people to when I offer Mass, but also we can all be welcoming, right? We can all be good ambassadors of God and again, build people up and be means of peace. I think that's vital in our day and age. And that's the beginning of conversion, which is what Advent is all about too. So
elaborate on that theme. Conversion.
I think in this life we can get very scattered, distracted. We can give into weaknesses or selfishness. I'll put it plainly, we can fall into sin. And when we draw closer to the Lord, I think there's a whole thing of being purified, renewed, strengthened, and growing in God's image and likeness, of which we are all created. But that's the idea of conversion. I think welcoming God into our hearts and letting His grace transform us. And I think we're all stand in need of that every day. And I think through prayer and through reflecting on Scripture, what have you, there's so many different means of growing in God's image. But conversion, I think it's drawing close to God, being a more charitable person, and being a selfless person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for clarification, it's not about a designated faith group. When you say conversion, you don't mean to become a certain kind of faith, Catholic in this case, or Christian or something like that. It's more about conversion of heart that you're referring to.
I believe God takes us just where we are, right?
Mm-hmm. When we think about the holiday season, Christmas can be a difficult time for some people, whether because of strained family relationships or a lack of closeness and intimacy that they might desire in their lives, and the perception that others have the idyllic Christmas setting or whatever. How can we speak to that for our audience, for people who might be finding the holiday season to be a time of strain as opposed to a time of enrichment?
Yeah, I think maybe reach out, see what friends may be doing, even if it's just a few people. People are very good. Most of my family is long since deceased, but I've people always offering to invite me to their homes for supper or what have you, or make sure to say hello during Christmas Day. But if you know someone who might be alone or someone who might be in this mourning, someone who's going through a difficult time, maybe, give them a text or give them a ring. Because it's always just share. Don't be alone. I think it's the main thing. Strive to get out with people and have a laugh and then just celebrate as best we can. But obviously, sometimes holiday season can be a trial for people. And again, a lot of the people that I do serve on the weekends, they've experienced death this year, sickness, and there's always family drama, correct? But I think ask for patience, but also reach out to others and have a forgiving heart. But look out for those who are alone, especially, I'd say, or even especially if you know somebody's going through a difficult time. And I always found as a parish priest, most people are pretty good at that too.
Father, what do you think? What do you think about the increasing, which I think is the positive, but I like your perspective on the tone of some of them, increasing Netflix series, movies that are based on the life of Jesus? We think of the Chosen. I don't know if you've seen that. Certainly not biblically correct, at least my opinion, not biblically correct all the time, but it does expose more and more people to the Word and to Jesus. And then we have endless podcasts on the subject. I'll share with you that one of my favorite ways to find peace is walking also. And I listen to this Bible study podcast, which it's short and it gives me time to reflect and think about the message of the day. But what do you think about this use of technology and the some of the stories who may not be biblically correct, but are inviting people into the topic?
Yeah, I think you're spot on the Chosen. I know they take artistic liberties, but I think that's very well done. And I think the man who plays Jesus he is a man of faith, and I think the goodness comes through him. And I really enjoy that series. I haven't watched all of it, but I've went from episode to episode. And I think I'm kind of behind the times for technology, but I do know that a lot of all kinds of denominations, Catholics, what have you, they have great religious podcasts, and they use the media very well, because media can be used it's just an extension of ourselves, right? It can be really good or destructive,
right?
But I really love The Chosen. There was another one a few years ago called Risen, which is well done too. It's from the perspective of a Roman centurion, just trying to hunt down the risen Jesus. But yeah, I enjoy a lot of the good media. In fact, my phone is full of really decent apps.
Well, maybe you're not so far behind as you think.
Well, that kind of brings us back to we have all these apps, we have all these media. There's a new Hallmark movie every minute of the day, it seems like.
And on that note, Chris, none of us, and something that the Reverend said earlier, none of us can live up to a Hallmark movie family, by the way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Don't compare yourself to that.
But I do think, if we want to come back to the idea of the power, the silence of Bethlehem and peace and quiet, in my world, if I'm not listening to music, I'm listening to a podcast. If I'm not listening to a podcast, I'm listening to the news. If I'm not listening to the news, I'm stimulated in some form or fashion. Perpetual stimulation.
It's true.
And there's something about that that's we crave that sometimes. But how do you move from that, desire to continually be stimulated and, engage and be up to the minute on what's happening in our world and all of that, to embracing the theme that you were talking about of the silence of Bethlehem, embracing that peace, the quietness, for perhaps I imagine, for being receptive to maybe being touched by God's grace in that moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just I have to unplug sometimes, and we get saturated with information, and a lot of times it's not particularly positive, and sometimes it's just too much, and it can get people angry and upset and anxious. So I just unplug. Like this week, I just made it a point. I'm up in Maine now, and I went to the Franciscan monastery in Kennebunk for an afternoon. Great place to walk, and there's a beautiful chapel. So I just unplug. And again, you don't have to take a trip to do it. Just shut things off, because we live on the phones, don't we? In a sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and it's addictive sometimes too.
The dopamine rush when you get the bing and all that. You got to look, right?
Absolutely,
right.
Yeah. So trying to maybe turn off the phone, huh?
Yeah, unplug. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's the challenge, I guess, for us,
It is,
Jeff.
yeah.
What do you think?
I think I think it's also a good strategy to set aside a certain time of day, whether it's first thing in the morning or the last thing in the day, or take that 2 p.m. break and just have a dedicated time where you pray, or it's reflection, or you're just sitting peacefully, you close your eyes, whatever it is for you, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
But to have that as a calendar item, almost like this, no, this is something I'm committing to do. If you don't do it, I think and you do try it for 30 days, I think you'll see that you're going to get some great benefits from it.
That's a great point, Jeff. I call that simple plan of life. Work it in. Like we have our meals, we have sleep, right. We get washed, but we have to take time for the soul. That's because it's a huge part of our humanity. Correct? So,
yes.
Yeah. Good point.
Make it part of the plan of life. Yep, absolutely.
I would also just maybe try to encourage people to have some. Don't be too hard on yourself in that.
Give yourself some grace, right?
Some grace, yeah. Like relationships in general. Sometimes things have a season, an ebb and flow, and sometimes you're closer and sometimes you're not. And spiritual life might have a similar, kind of cycle where there are times when you feel a real sense of closeness and, insight and all that. And there's other times when maybe that voice that you think you should be hearing seems awfully dormant. And it may be sometimes we just don't see it. We don't hear it, but it doesn't mean it's not still somehow pervasive in our world and in our life. And I think sometimes, when we think about God's grace, God's hand in our life, we have to be looking for it to be able to see it. And if we're not looking for it, oftentimes we don't think it's there,
Right.
or we can say it's not there, sometimes to be able to see it is like those magic image, you have to twist your eyes a little bit, look this way, squint maybe, oh, and there it is. Now I see it, but if you're not looking for it, it might not be evident. I don't know. What do you think of that?
And we all get dark nights of the soul, though. John of the Cross was a great Spanish poet and mystic. Is oftentimes, even when we find ourselves in a period of darkness, trial, or distress, a lot of times that's when God's really working on us, because we learn a lot. We learn a lot when we're in the desert, right?
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
very true.
And sometimes you can also use an analogy of a sports team. Like, let's put it this way: sometimes there's some great winning streaks, right? There's great championship seasons, and then you can get like the Patriots this year, right?
Yeah,
So,
I knew that's where you're going, Father.
But it can be a building experience.
We all feel that.
Yeah. All right. A good way to end. Father Vincent Daily, thanks for spending some time with us. Wishing you and yours a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
And
yes.
thanks for spending some time and sharing your thoughts. And to all our listeners as well, Jeff, to you and all our
Merry
listeners.
Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas, and thanks for being with us.
Yep.
Until next time.
God bless
please.
everyone. Yep.
Thanks, Vincent.
Thank you,
All right, so until next time, keep striving for something more.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to Something More with Chris Boyd. Call us for help, whether it's financial planning, portfolio management, insurance concerns, or those quality of life issues that make the money matters matter. Whatever's on your mind, visit us at amrfinancial.com or call us toll free at 866-771-8901 or send us your questions to radio@amrfinancial.com.